Well, hello everyone. My name is Musey, and I'm here representing Museys Modern Dreadfuls. Today, I am debuting an exclusive story for you written by Joey Horist. It's called Have I Told You How Much I Hate Valentine's Day? Have I ever told you how much I hate Valentine's Day? It has existed for over 1,500 years, and now I'm sure it was just as horrible back then as it is now. Maybe it's even worse now. Now it has devolved into nothing more than a foolish holiday warped by corporations trying to sell their greeting cards and have fancy chocolates jostled down your throat. I decided to do something even better than all that for my partner this year. Instead of giving them a heart for Valentine's Day, I decided to rip out their own heart and show it to them just before it stopped beating. Metaphorically speaking. I believe it was Plato who likened love to a mental illness. That's the best analogy I ever heard. They say love makes you do crazy things. That's partially correct. However, it's the man you love that makes you go crazy. I gave that man 10 years of my life, and this is how he chooses to repay me? This is my Valentine's Day present? I thought that everything was perfect, that he loved me, until one day he just stopped caring. At first, it was just a bunch of little things that most people wouldn't give a second thought to, but they quickly began to add up to something much bigger. In the beginning, he just stayed out a little later with the guys, claiming they were bowling or some other activity. Then he would never answer his phone when I was looking for him. And finally, he started to lose interest when I tried to tell him about my day. Every time I tried to open my mouth, it seemed as though his mouth was wrapped around a beer bottle, and there was always a different sports game on TV to drown out the sound of my voice. It was the day of February 14th when my suspicions got the better of me, and I had to know what was up. I borrowed one of my friend's cars and decided to follow him while he was supposedly out with the guys. I wish I could feign surprise when I tell you that wasn't true, but I'd only be lying to myself. I parked down the street and watched as he approached the front door of a 2-story French provincial home with a BMW parked in the center of the driveway. Whoever this was wasn't hurting for cash. A young woman answered the door. She was wearing a striped sweater and taut blue jeans that strained as they hugged her curvaceous hips, and had long blonde hair that just barely made it to her breastline. My husband embraced her almost immediately after she opened the door. With his hands wrapped around her waist, and his head nestled firmly in one of her shoulders, he tilted his neck from side to side to view both ends of the street, as if he suspected he was being watched. The two of them stepped inside and disappeared from my sight. Something clicked, and it couldn't have been the lock on the front door. I was too far away to hear that. This was the sound of my ailing psyche shattering into tiny pieces. An intense stabbing pain throbbed in my chest as tears flooded my face. My lungs burned from hyperventilating, and I felt like I might explode on the spot. How could he do this to me? Was I not pretty enough for him? Was the lifestyle I helped him build not good enough anymore? We didn't have a great house or a fancy car, but I thought what we did have was enough. I thought we had each other. He couldn't get away with this. I wasn't going to let him. That's when I got the idea. We were going out for a special dinner tonight for the holiday. I had to make sure it was the last special dinner he ever had. That night, we had agreed to meet at the restaurant. He said he would take an Uber. He had the nerve to show up 45 minutes late. I had waited so long that the place had given up our table. By the time he arrived, we had to take whatever seats they had available, which turned out to be the table way in the back by the kitchen. How romantic. He refused to tell me where he was all that time, only saying that he was busy. And I had a good idea of what or who he was busy doing. At that point, I didn't have the energy to be mad at him anymore, not even disappointed. I hoped he had a good time because I was going to have some fun of my own when we got home. But first, I had to make sure he was softened up a bit. I couldn't have him fighting back on me. Normally, I hated when he drank. But tonight was as good of a time as any for him to live it up. I made sure the waitress kept the drinks coming. She was bringing them out faster than he could finish them. And tonight, strictly beer wouldn't do. Absolute and tonic, Jack and Coke, Wild Turkey, neat. The stronger the better, in my opinion. He was in no condition to drive home, so the responsibility fell upon me. I'm no idiot. What's the slogan? Drive sober or get pulled over? I had a death wish. His death wish. And I wasn't about to let him take me along because he was too drunk to remember which way was up. We had to make a pit stop at a gas station. If this damn piece of junk car got more than 10 miles per gallon, that was something. My husband always said he would bring it in to get it looked at. That certainly worked out well. I guess when a man says they'll do something, they'll do it. There's no need to remind them every 6 months about it. Right? While I was pumping the gas, he stumbled inside the gas station which I assumed was either to pee or vomit. As I sat in the car awaiting his return, I took the opportunity to look around the glove compartment. I forgot that he kept a knife in there just in case. I clutched the frigid weapon in my hands. It was so tempting to use it on him then and there. He would never have seen it coming. He would have hobbled his way back to the car, and a few pokes later, it would have been done with. Unfortunately, it wasn't him seeing it coming that I needed to worry about. If it got picked up on security footage somehow, I was screwed 6 ways from Sunday. Back at home was my best chance. He emerged from the gas station and returned to the car. The scent of chewing gum emanated from his breath in a poor attempt at concealing the regurgitation that I had accurately predicted. Nestled in his arms was a bouquet of yellow carnations, which looked thirstier than an alcoholic in a monastery, and a box of heart-shaped chocolates. The idiot waited until the last minute possible to think of a gift, and then he just handed them to me, like I was supposed to be grateful for the effort. I took the bouquet and smashed it against his face, but in his stupor, I don't think the gesture meant anything to him. He was just ticklish more than anything when I did it. By the time we made it home, he was fast asleep in the car. If I had been able to pull in the garage, I would have left him in there and let the car run, and end of story there. But the damn thing was locked up. Even the garage door opener wasn't working. I figured he must have placed something over one of the sensors and it was throwing the signal off. I'd deal with that in the morning. The lucky guy just bought himself a few extra minutes of life. I hoisted him up out of the passenger seat and threw his arm around my shoulder. It took a few minutes, but we eventually got through the front door and up the stairs. The whole time, he was still clutching those damn gas station chocolates in his hand. I made sure to take extra special care dressing him in his pajamas. It would look better that way when he was found. He went to bed and died in his sleep. No crime to investigate. Finally, I had him in bed, drunk and defenseless. But he kept drifting in and out of consciousness. Every time the pillow clutched in my hands was about to hit his face, he'd spring up and ask what I was doing, and then casually drift back to sleep. It was maybe my 3rd or 4th attempt when his routine changed. He staggered out of bed and headed for the bathroom. The sound of a steady stream of urine eased my tension. I thought he was going to be sick again and was in no mood to clean up the mess. Suddenly, a thunderous bang erupted from inside the bathroom. When he didn't come out after a minute, I got up to investigate. There laid my husband on the bathroom floor, blood gushing from a head wound. A streak of blood on the toilet seat told the story of what happened here. He must have lost his balance. Bending down, I checked for his pulse and called out to him a couple of times, but I wasn't seeing any signs of life. This couldn't have gone any more according to plan. This was perfect. He was dead, and it was a real accident. In his last moments of life, this cheating sack of garbage went ahead and did the work for me and died on his own. This was the best Valentine's Day gift he could have gotten me. I wanted to celebrate, if only for a moment, before I called the police and feigned shock and horror. Suddenly, I was in the mood for something sweet, and that gas station chocolate wasn't sounding too bad after all. I strutted over to the nightstand on my husband's side of the bed where he had placed it. Accompanying the chocolates was a note, neatly folded up and placed within the box. It wasn't with the chocolates before, so he must have written it ahead of time? What did this jerk have to say to me now? Was he breaking up with me? Was he confessing about the other woman? There was only one way to find out. I began to read the letter to myself. Hey, honey. I know things haven't been the best between us lately, and I'm sorry about that. I mean it this time. And to prove it to you, I think I got you something you're going to really like. It might be a few years old, but if you're willing to give me one last chance, I think our marriage will last just as long as your shiny, new to you anyway, pre-owned BMW. It has fewer bells and whistles than I would have liked, but I know you haven't been happy with our old car, and I remembered how fond you were of Beamers. I was so excited when I found it that I practically jumped into the nice lady's arms. It's parked in the garage waiting for you. Tomorrow, let's take it for a spin. I love you, baby. Happy Valentine's Day.